Hello and welcome, I'm Tafarag Damu. For several years now, the Association of Women in Business, EWIB, has been recognizing its women of excellence. These are women who've made a difference in their communities too. I'll be joined by two of the four nominees, Dr. Tigist Girma and Manna Salamu, as well as Yodit Gide from the association. Welcome to the program. Yodit, can you put this in context? How many nominees do we have? Four, I guess.
For Women of Excellence. Thank you so much for having us today and always being a supporter of EWIB and a Women of Excellence in particular. What EWIB does is connect leaders, women leaders in Ethiopia. What we have is weekly meetings where we have personal and professional development programs, and then we have monthly networking and programs at Hilton. And then twice a year, we have our flagship programs. May Forum is about cultivating conversation, discussion, leadership. And then Women of Excellence, where we get to highlight, it's a gift to the community. We get to highlight.
So you have four for this year?
What we have is four nominees. But we started with 18.
It is basically the same procedure, right? You open the room for competition and folks filled their nominees, right?
Absolutely. We put out a call for nominations in December, and then all these stories come in. We get to screen, and this year we have four individuals, dynamic women.
Manna, your father was bohemian, to say the least. I mean, as a professor at the School of Law at Addis Ababa University for many years. So you say that your father somehow influenced you, correct?
Very true.
Can you explain a bit?
So when I grew up with my father, literally my father, he always enjoyed challenging my intellect. So for me to think a little bit more, think critically, no assumptions. So more of a reading and then trying to understand what really is the truth. So that's how I grew up. In a way, I would say, yes, he has influenced me in many ways, who I am today, and the basic principles, I would say, I took from him.
But you ended up being an engineer. I would have thought otherwise.
Very true, because I never thought I would be an educator. So I started my educational background is engineering, and I worked with that background just for about 2 years. And then quickly I shifted towards education. But we started, me and my partner, actually Sarkadis, whom I met in the technology company, my first hire. And so we wanted to open a school for young children for them to learn computer. So it was a little bit close to the engineering background. And while teaching these young children computer, math, English, and things like that, we just noticed that there is a gap. So we shifted towards education more. So that's how I just entered the education sector.
Dr. Tigist, you had a difficult birth, right? I mean, you were infected right after birth. I mean, this was a time period when mothers died giving birth, right? That somehow shaped the way you charted your way in education and so on. To be a medical doctor at the end of the day.
You know, women still die of birth, and infants still die of birth. But when I was born, a few decades ago, I was a bit difficult baby, and they tried all the manipulation to get me out. I didn't want to go out. And then finally, they did a C-section. And when I went out, I was infected. So I had a neonatal infection. At that time, there were few antibiotics, and they couldn't treat me. So I was going to die, and they said, let her die. because her mother is going to have other children, so she can die. But you see, I didn't want to die. I survived. And since that time, I have been all over the world, and I always had a dream.
You survived, and so did your other sisters, right?
Of course.
All of them ended up being medical doctors.
I survived because I was in Addis. My parents had means. And on that same day, and again, still today, so many women and so many children are dying while giving birth. And this is not right and shouldn't happen. And that's the reason why I had a dream all my life. In the 42 years I spent outside my country, I always had a dream to come and support women in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did.
And it took you 42 years to get back to Ethiopia and start supporting women.
I was working in global health for many years.
Exactly. We'll talk about that in a bit. These are interesting stories, aren't they, Judith?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I get to, with Nahus and Naigirma, the founder, I was editing these stories. I'm just like, how do these women have time for all this? And they're still going. Very inspirational. And that's why we want to make sure to celebrate them while they're still here. And also create role models for Ethiopia.
You started this business, basically it's a business, but Flipper Computer Aided Learning Center, right? With your friend, right?
Yes.
Partnership, that's a very critical word here. Do you agree?
Very true. So yes, actually Flipper, I would say, is the story of two women and partnership among women with the same vision. So as you said, partnership can be difficult, can be challenging, but it gets easier when you have the same vision. So myself and Serkadis, my partner, our vision was the same. And that kept us on course.
Dr. Tegas, when you started working as a consultant, as a medical doctor, it was a very interesting time period in a way. HIV/AIDS was at its peak. People were dying like flies. And then this was the problem of developing generic drugs. And you had a role in that, right? And yes. A big fight with the multinational corporations, pharmaceuticals.
When HIV/AIDS started in Africa, I was in Burundi as a head of a medical service ward. And I happened to diagnose the first cases in that country. Of course, at that time, AIDS was a death sentence, and because I was an infectious disease specialist, everybody would send the patient to me. So I had to announce death sentence to all the patients. That was very depressing for me. But I did it because it was my job.
I mean, there was no institutional support, if you will, right? I mean, the government was not...
In the country where I was, AIDS was a taboo. And the government of Burundi of that time didn't want AIDS to be told to media or anything. They wanted to hide it, and I didn't want to do that. So I said, I knew AIDS is not an outbreak. It was going to be a pandemic. We knew that AIDS would be with us for many years, and I wanted to do everything to prevent the disease. But the government of that country didn't want. So I had to leave that country because of that, because I almost went to prison because of HIV/AIDS. And that's where the World Health Organization noticed me and recruited me in the new global program on AIDS in Geneva.
We have two other nominees, as you said earlier. Can you give us some idea who these two are?
Absolutely. Thank you. So,
because I want to cut into this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I should have mentioned earlier. Bethlehem Dassé, she is founder and CEO of iCog, Anyone Can Code, a software developer, a tech entrepreneur. She's reached, through her programs, some 25,000 children have been reached to be taught coding and robotics, that kind of thing. And then we have Amina Mohammed, over 20 years of educational experience, and she fought to start a boarding school in Dire Dawa, like most rural areas. the children can't continue their education after a certain point. So she wanted to make sure to give the parents comfort and give them a space to be while they continue their education.
Normally you have 6 or 7 every year, right? Women of Excellence. This year it's about 2, right? I mean 4.
It's been about 7 or 5, and this year we have 4.
But you're interested in transferring knowledge, right? How does that fit into, because you've handed over, basically, you've left the first business that you've started, right? You've moved on already. So how does this transfer of knowledge fit into that whole paradigm?
Thank you. So when I think of education, what I always believe in is that we teach children just what we already know. So I'm saying just because we're teaching them what we know today. But what we're trying to do is for them to be able to be inspired to create something for tomorrow, a world that we have not seen. And this one, transferring knowledge, is not an ownership. It has to be sustainable. It has to continue. It has to pass the age of the founders, myself and Sir Kadis. So what we decided, actually, starting from 2016, that was our aim in order to transfer, to be able to make sure to transfer the management and also engage someone in the field of education who can continue what we started. And so that's what we did. That was, in my view, that's a great success because it will ascertain its continuity, its sustainability. So, yes, I think it goes hand in hand.
Well, how is continuity maintained while you are on the move? Because you've now a charity, right?
So the charity and the school are different entities. So the charity, we started it with 22 friends, good friends. And we wanted to do something beyond our friendship to help, to support our society. So we started this charity and started helping about 240 children from government schools who with limited means. But our aim there is just to go beyond feeding, beyond supporting them with materials. We wanted them to be inspired, for them to know, and that we're all the same. And together we can make a difference. So this charity organization, its name is Innoho Fikr. Now we're trying to grow it even more and go towards high school. Of course, we need a lot of support from donors. And we want to reach out to make sure that there won't be any high school dropouts because of lack of vision, lack of inspiration. So we want to be involved in that. And I'm the chairperson of Innoho Fikr.
Dr. Tigist, I'm sure there are a host of issues to talk about here, but what do you think are the best 4 things that you have done while you were at the WHO as a representative of your organization in several countries?
I would like to tell you first what I have achieved in Ethiopia, because I've told you that I had a dream in the 42 years I spent outside Ethiopia. So when I finished my career in WHO, I took all my pension money and came and built a building on the family land and transformed it into a midwifery college. This midwifery college takes students from the rural area, Somali region, Afar region, Gambella, Benshangul, all over, bring them here, empower them, transform them into a midwives with a Bachelor of Science degree, and when they finish their studies, they go back and serve their communities. This was done all with my pension money. Later, when I showed results, of course, everybody was interested and supported it. And today, we have more than 100 students coming from all over Ethiopia studying there. And I was very surprised to hear 2 days ago that 93% of our students passed the national license exam. That's, for me, achieved the aim of having a center of excellence in Ethiopia. And now because I know that I cannot be donor dependent all over, I established an MCH center within that building. That means a mother and child center. That mother and child center helps the student to practice there, but at the same time, it brings money to the school. So it is a social enterprise which is going to make the college self-sustainable at the end. This is what I have achieved since I came back. Mm-hmm. What I have achieved in WHO and others is, that I have contributed, I call it the 3x5 initiative, which means having 3 million people by 2005 in the developing world, because at that time, HIV...
adopted by the UN. Yeah.
Drugs was very expensive, and we wanted to have generic drugs to be available for developing countries. It was a big fight, but with my colleague Jim Kim, who became the World Bank president later, we worked in the same office, achieved 3x5 by 2007. So today, HIV/AIDS has become a chronic disease because of the availability of antiretrovirals in the developing world, and I'm very proud of it.
It's interesting you moved fast forward. How many students have you graduated from your midwifery college?
We have graduated now 48 students, because we started 4 years ago, because when I came back to Ethiopia, and we have now 48 students. Of course, we have a capacity of training for 240.
There is a very interesting business acumen here, if you will, because when she worked at AMREF, as Director General of AMREF, I gathered that you have made AMREF a self-sustaining institution, the African Medical Research Foundation, right? Started by leasing the fleet that they had out of Nairobi, correct?
Yeah.
So that's a knowledge that you have transferred here to Ethiopia when you developed this mother and child health center as an income generation scheme.
I always believed that Africa shouldn't be donor dependent. Africans should have African solutions, as you know. This is what I developed in the AMREF Health Africa. AMREF Health Africa is a health organization which works in 35 countries. And when I arrived in AMREF, it was very dependent of donors. So what I said, no, we need to have our own business. And I transformed the East African Flying Doctors into a business, an insurance business. And that East African Flying Doctors brought money to AMREF. And then I also created an AMREF University, which is currently bringing money to AMREF. So AMREF has become sustainable. I knew that since a long time, so I also used it to my own personal charity.
You have a series in leadership, right? I mean, where you organize lectures and so on, right? Here you have a case in point.
Absolutely. So Dr. Tigges was one of our speakers at the May Forum.
That's where I met him.
Yes. And of course, Menna, we just met today, but I've called her plenty through AWA. But these women are just constantly reminding us that we have solutions within ourselves. If we look within, if we work together. I'm getting emotional listening to you.
You are now into the health sector, right?
Yes.
It overlaps here with Dr. Tigges. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So, if I'm going to be lucky, one of the things that I would like to do is something to make a difference in the healthcare sector, so that we can have better health here, health providers. So, yes, I've started working in contacting, actually, organizations abroad with the potential if they can come here. So it's a work in progress, and I'm hoping that I'll be successful in that area. So working.
This would be in addition to what you are doing in the education sector, right?
So yes, in the charity aspect, yes, that will continue. Currently, I have moved away from management of my school. So this would be an additional thing that I would like to be involved.
Where is that school headed now?
Our school? Yeah. So...
say in the next 10 years. Where do you want to be in 10 years?
in 10 years. So currently the school serves about, this year, 2,300 students this year. So we're growing year on year. And we are also having employees, about 485 employees this year. So what I'm looking forward to see is that many more to use this institution that myself and Sarkadis created 24 years ago, and many more to be able to learn in that facility. And also in terms of employees, I do wish to see much more employees getting some benefit out of it, their families, themselves, and so on. So
when you say employees, do you mean women largely?
the majority of our employees are women, about, I would say, 70% of them. When we started, it was close to 100, and now it's about 70% of the Flipper employees are women. Very powerful, very successful, very positive women. So that's what we have at Flipper. So I wish to see this grow in terms of employees as well as students.
Dr. Turgis, I just gathered that you have penned a book, right? What is it that you want to tell?
I want to tell my story, an African woman story in the world. The struggle that an African woman has to go through to get where she wants to be.
So that involves your time in, for example, in Burundi.
Oh, yeah, everything.
And the time, I mean, when you were in Paris, where you couldn't manage to get through that college, and when you also went through divorce years back and handling
separation,
separation, and being a single mom for a few years. This is part of the story. That made you who you are today.
My story really presents the challenges that a woman has to go through her life. It also shows that you need to have a dream which is not limited, the sky is the limit, but that you have to work hard and be determined to realize your dreams. If you do that, you can be successful. For me, it's really determination, taking risk, working hard, and at the end, results. That can happen for any woman if she goes through this path. This is what I wanted to show to all my young sisters in Ethiopia and also all over the world, because the book is translated. Yeah.
You could have as well failed. Is your experience an exception?
I knew I will not fail. No. Because, you see, you have to be positive when you start something. You have to be positive and you have to work hard. But there's also someone there who looks at this. So, you see, I also believe in God's support who helps me to do that. But I think that all women should never be discouraged, should never give up, should work hard to realize their dreams. That's so important for me. Nothing is impossible.
You have this big event coming up on Sunday, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So October 30.
One of them is going to be a Woman of Excellence for the Year, right?
Well, they're all Women of Excellence. So one is the title holder.
The title holder,
we say
yes.
the title holder. So over the years, we've celebrated 53 Women of Excellence. And so this year, again, we have 4. It's going to be on Sunday at the Sheraton with a lavish, extravagant dinner and event, really to honor these women working tirelessly for the community, for the world, really, while they're here. And also just to remind each other that they are role models right here in Ethiopia. So that's what we do.
So you think you can win, Mana? You think you're entitled to win this?
I do believe.
You're a runner-up, so there we go.
There we go. So I believe that, seeing Dr. Turgis' achievements, honestly, I'm overwhelmed. And in my view, like anyone who make an impact is a winner here. We're just, for me, I would say I'm honored to be here. But I do believe that we're not the only ones. Like, there are many winners at home as well. But for me, it's not about winning or not, because we're all acknowledged, and that's something very big, and I'm honored.
Same question for you, Dr. Tegas. And what would that mean to you?
For me, I went there in this competition to inspire young girls. Winning or winning is not my issue.
But it would make a difference, wouldn't it? Because it kind of brings some publicity to the whole exercise.
Of course. And that publicity for me is not for my own publicity. It is for others, to be a role model for others, to be inspired by my work and do what I have tried for them to succeed. It's not about me. I have finished my life, and I got so many recognitions for that.
If I may, I'm so sorry. If I may, and I love how you're responding, because we're very serious with AWIB and this program to not say winning. That's why we focus on title holder, and with the title holder, with the prize money, they can put it toward their foundation. But yes, I hear you, ladies. It's not about winning. It's telling the story. And it still will bring recognition to all four of the ladies' endeavors. So.
Well, good luck, and thank you very much for joining me to share your stories. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.